Hey buddy, watch this.
Hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Hearthstone is the game, and I'm about to rank all 9 new class legendaries from Whispers of the Old Gods in order of worst to best for their overall impact they'll have on the metagame. In other words, I'm going to take a big old guess which of these cards are going to be good, and which of them are going to be pretty bad, starting off with the worst of all, which I think will be Ragnaros Lightlord, the Paladin Legendary. Now, this is an awfully fun card, but the design really lacks immediate impact and is awfully slow. So if I had to rate this card on a scale of 1 to 10, I really think it's only about a 4. I just don't think it'll fit into that many decks, nor will it be played all that often. Moving on to the 8th most impactful class legendary, for me it's the priest card Herald Village. Not only does it have an awkward name, this card is really just a win more card in my mind. I originally thought it was going to be pretty nifty, but the more I think about it, it's only going to give you advantages if you're already ahead on the board and in a good spot to win the game, so I'm not sure it'll be the most impactful card of all, despite having what I think is actually a pretty powerful effect, so still only a 5 out of 10. Moving on to the 7th best card. Despite Chogall being one of the most recognizable villains, if you will, in all of Warcraft, I don't think this card is going to be all that strong. The body is okay for the stats, but the battle cry, despite giving you a sizable tempo advantage from time to time, is actually quite punishing in the late game, and really may not even swing the board all that much in your favor, just because Chogall's body is so all tied up into one minion that it's susceptible to removal and probably isn't that powerful of a play. So a 6 out of 10 in my mind. Moving on to Mage, which I think will be the next best card. It's Anomalous for 8 mana. This is an 8/6 with one of the craziest death rattles I've ever actually seen. Deal 8 damage to all minions. That's super powerful and will totally help you reset almost any board when Anomalous dies. But unfortunately, he is quite expensive as a minion himself. He's not that impactful with 6 health, and you are putting a lot of the power in your opponent's hands when this happens. So there are some downsides, of course, and the right kinds of deck and the right times. Anomalous could definitely win you games as a sort of board reset or an anti-taunt that your opponent is forced to keep alive, in which cases you can swing for 8. So there is some potential here, just not all that much, so another 6 out of 10. Moving on to the Hunter Legendary, it's next up on my list. Princess Huhuran. I like this card because it's a 5 mana minion, and it still has good stats as a 6/5, and the battle cry can occasionally have a pretty immediate and significant impact. Imagine, for instance, triggering a friendly Sylvanas' death rattle effect and stealing a huge minion from your opponent, more or less by surprise, but sometimes it'll just be about generating value or additional minions on the board, which is also a lot of upside when there's really no downside to the minion itself. There are also beast synergies with Princess Huhuran, so there are a lot of different pieces working in favor of this card. In my mind, it'll be a 7 out of 10. Moving on to Druid's new legendary, Fandral Staghelm. This 4 mana 3/5 might not look like much as a minion, even though those stats are okay. It's really his effect that I think is underrated by the community so far, and could be incredibly powerful in the right kinds of decks, particularly with Druid spells that have choose one options. Being able to double up on those essentially doubles the effectiveness of your spells, and also makes many minions slightly more powerful as well. And since he's only 4 mana, you can actually combo him out, even in the late game, with a variety of other low to medium cost cards to make them very impactful. So he's probably an okay play on curve, but a very powerful late game minion as well. And I think there's a lot of upside on this card and not a lot of downside, so he's actually an 8 out of 10 in my mind. Moving on to the 3rd best class legendary for Whispers of the Old Gods. As far as I'm concerned, only time will really tell, but I think it's Zeral Poisoned Mind, the new rogue legendary. This 4 mana minion is only a 3/2, which looks pretty bad, but he has a really cool battle cry and death rattle effect you add a random toxin card to your hand. Now, I'm not going to show the toxin cards in this video, but they are quite powerful. They're essentially super spare parts in some cases, each with meaningful effects, and also they're 1 mana spells, which is just fantastic for most rogue decks to have, both because of all the various spell synergies and because they're perfect for setting up combos as well. So the downsides of this minion's body is surpassed by the value that he can generate in synergistic decks. So I think Herald Poison Mind is going to fit in a number of different rogue decks and be a pretty powerful minion as well. Moving on to the second best class legendary for me, it's Halaziel the Ascended, the new Shaman legendary at 5 mana. It's a 4/6 minion, which is pretty solid for 5 mana. That's a nice body attached to the cost. And it has a crazy good effect. Whenever your spells deal damage, restore that much health to your hero. So that means if you cast a lightning bolt, you're going to heal for 3, which is pretty cool because you're also casting a lightning bolt. If you cast a lightning storm and kill the entire enemy board, you can essentially heal for 21, right? And since this is only 5 mana, you can actually probably cast many spells in a single turn to essentially full heal yourself. So in many ways, Halaziel the Ascended is kind of a Reno Jackson in a different body. It even has the same stat allocation. So in a mid-range or control-style Shaman deck that falls behind early, Halaziel the Ascended could definitely help you recover the board. But I will say, if you are already ahead and or at least even in a game and you haven't taken a lot of damage, Halaziel the Ascended becomes less and less valuable and less strong of a play. So that's really his only downside. But he's almost perfect. So that's why he's a 9 out of 10 to me. And then finally, this might surprise some people. I actually think the new Warrior Legendary Malkarak might be the best legendary for class cards out of Whispers of the Old Gods. He's 7 mana, and he's a 6/5 body, which really isn't all that bad for 7 mana. It's an aggressive stat allocation. It's sturdy enough to survive low-cost minions and trade effectively, or at least evenly, into most stuff around his health, or his mana cost, excuse me. But it's really the battle cry to me that makes Malkarak so incredibly strong. Essentially, as a 6/5 minion, you'd expect him to cost about 5 mana, which means for this battle cry to become efficient, it needs to be a 2 mana weapon, and most weapons are at least 2 mana. There are very, very few below that, and many are 3, 4, 5 mana, and there are, of course, occasionally the higher 7 mana weapons as well. So, very likely 99.9% of the time you're going to come out even with Malkarak with a really strong minion and an instant impact with a weapon, and a majority of the time, I would argue, you're going to come out way ahead with Malkarak from a very powerful weapon. So it's all upside with this card. It's immediate tempo because you get a body and you get to react to the board thanks to weapon play. Occasionally you'll get that Gorehowl or that Doomhammer that just simply wins you the game. So he's got a great win condition in that way. It's fantastic in fatigue style battles because you're essentially getting 2 cards. You're getting a minion and a weapon with only 1 card in your slot. So you're getting more value out of fewer resources. It just fits in so many different places and has a lot of cool pieces to it. And it might not be as flashy as the Halaziel the Ascended or some of the other legendaries, but I think when it comes to pure value and consistency and reliability and advantages that it offers, Malkarak is the best class legendary in Whispers of the Old Gods. Now, of course, my foresight might be totally wrong. It probably is. In fact, we won't know until these cards are in play, but this is my guess. I'd love to hear your thoughts with a comment below. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, game on.